So my name is Eric Itzel. I'm an ITS engineer with Swarco McCain. You guys have heard me bantering for the last day and a half, and you're going to hear me banter for 25 minutes. This morning I'm going to talk about intersection communications, which is kind of fun because I spent 20 years in IT prior to coming over to traffic, prior to coming over to Swarco McCain. So this is a little bit of old hat for me. I've built field communication networks for water and sewer systems for cities, intelligent transportation, and I don't dabble in IT anymore, but it's still very near and dear to me. So I'm actually wearing my old shirt from my past life right now. The presentation I have for you this morning is a descendant of a presentation I wrote a couple years ago for the University of Tennessee and the FHWA on getting your workforce ready for innovations. They asked me to, again, put on my old hat and write a presentation about training and awareness and everything, and communications was a big part of that. So it's kind of cool to put this old shirt back on. Very simple presentation this morning. I'm going to talk about two things. Number one, communication needs and wants. What we need to get out of our comm systems and what we actually want to get out of our comm systems. Number two, the different solutions. So kind of building on what Luke was talking about just a minute ago with not really getting into like the dynamic host configuration protocol of it all. I like to always say my acronyms, what happened to Luke? He's somewhere else. Oh, there you are, yeah. Yeah, and domain name system. I'm an old IT guy, so if I say too many acronyms at once, people go, nerd, you know. So I'm going to talk about what we need to get out of these systems, and I'm going to talk about the different types of systems. I'm going to keep it very high level, of course, and super agnostic, but this is going to be fun. All right, next, please. Needs and wants. Okay, so the story that I tell with traffic communications and communication networks, and even actually using the products. So it's everything from Mainlink and Glance to our vendor central systems. As users, we have three fundamentals that we get out of these systems: monitor, control, and analyze. Obviously, you want to monitor your traffic system. You want to have control, or you want to be able to monitor the intersections, the phase statuses, overlap statuses, detectors. You want to know if it's in flash. You want it to send you alarms. All of these things that we can do with these modern central systems. And of course, accessing the CCTV is a dated term, but accessing the IP camera streams, the cabinet monitors, all the things all the toys that we have inside of these cabinets now. Then control, we want to, of course, manage the intersection timing, manage the active pattern. Maybe we're using adaptive or traffic responsive, and of course, update the timing in the controller, but then accessing the detection as well, because we want to log into our detection, our TSP, all of the things at the intersection. We want to hit those web user interfaces, those APIs, everything. And then analyze, of course, collecting the logs from the intersection, high-res data, SPMs, TSP statistics, everything, of course, that we've been talking about the last 2 days and we'll be going into tomorrow. And of course, if you've sat through my ATC cabinet class so far, diagnostics, one of the most important things in keeping the intersection running. So that's what we use a comm system for. So now, part two. I told you this wasn't going to be long. Luke's is always quicker than mine, but this morning I don't feel like lingering too long. All right, so let's talk about what's available. I kind of brainstormed 5 different communication methods that are communication systems that agencies are interested in using or have already deployed. So kind of a breakdown. First one, of course, enterprise wide area networks, typically fiber optic networks. I was working in Gwinnett County, Georgia a couple of weeks ago. They have 350 miles of fiber optic through their county. Of course, Washington, D.C., miles and miles and miles of fiber. I was there last week. So I guess the Cadillac or the most desired field comm network is fiber optics, strung through your city, strung through your county, strung through your state. Is it a reality? Well, we'll talk about that. Next up is cellular connectivity. A lot of agencies are going to cellular now. Kind of makes sense. You pop a little device in the cabinet, it hooks to the cell system. You don't have to build your own network. You just become a subscriber. Then managed cellular connectivity. I break this out because there's one where the agency handles their cellular, and then there's one going through a solution provider. I guess it's the nicest way to say, we have, let's see, we have AI, we have MyVision in here, we have no traffic. I think there's another one in here too. But like you buy the cellular through the solution, part of a greater package, greater story. Leased lines, ISP, deploying an internet connection in the cabinet itself, or multiple internet connections in series of cabinets. So cable modem, DSL, all the fun stuff. And then legacy solutions. It's kind of a punchline of, right now we still have twisted pair communications. We still have copper interconnect in use. And most of the time, the joke is, well, we just kind of use that as a pull string for the fiber. So, general considerations. This is kind of coming from my old UT presentations. Let's think as you're choosing your desired comm system. Let's think about what we want. Features and functions. How is the system going to be used? I've deployed quite a few traffic systems, or Swarco McCain, My City, Transparity, whatever we want to call it today. I've deployed quite a few systems where it turns into the computer that sits in the corner and nobody ever looks at it. So they spend a lot of money investing in a central system and nobody uses it. They're like, oh, well, is that thing even turned on anymore? And I can guarantee that Unix traffic, Cubic traffic, where Econolite, they can say that they have the same story. So how is the system going to be used? What does the end user want to get out of the system? That affects, or that's an impact on how the system should be designed. Should we spend $5 million on fiber comm to connect two intersections that no one cares about? Good question. Investment in total cost of ownership. I love this term. I used to use this term all the time back when I was with an agency. What's the total cost of ownership of the system? It's not just, well, the thing costs $25,000, but how much is it going to cost over 10 years, which is how long I expect the system to operate. So if you're going to invest in fiber optic communication, like actually my former agency down in Tennessee, where I used to work, they just spent $1 million on fiber optic to interconnect their traffic system and such. So what's their total cost of ownership for that $1 million investment over a 10-year period? That has to be factored into building out these communication networks, like it has to be factored in with any system. And then cybersecurity. Luke, I got you back on this one. I will talk about cybersecurity. It's a priority. I'm an old IT guy, thing one, but thing two, we just saw, when we talked about this yesterday, we just saw PED buttons get hacked. Somebody could get killed if the bad guys hack into the network and crash all of our traffic controllers. Somebody could die. Our top priority, the reason that we're all in this room, number one, is safety, then efficiency, then costs. I'm always going to talk about that. So cybersecurity is a top priority in design and maintenance. And before I go any further, as an old IT guy, and I was a network administrator, so I had the keys to the kingdom. I was the firewall guy. I was the policy guy. So when when a department head walked up to me and said, "Hey, we want to do this," my answer wasn't no. My answer was, "All right, let's talk about it. What do you want to get out of that system?" But what I'm hearing all over the country right now is, we don't work with IT. They don't want to work with us. They don't want to know anything about what we're doing. It's, and it is true. But humbly, I always advise everybody at the start of a project, even before we have our kickoff meeting, hey, invite your IT person. Oh, they're jerks, or they just sit in their office and play with their Star Wars toys. I know, but give them the option. Open the door and say, come on in. Yeah, somebody over here laughed because they know that's true. But I'm going to get in trouble one day. One day I'm going to be up against an old version of me, and they're going to be like, I play with Star Wars toys, and I write the POs. I'm going to be like, oh, damn. But invite IT to the conversation. If they don't show up, if they no-show, keep inviting them. Because when they find out that you deployed SNMP version 1 traffic controllers on the street that are part of critical infrastructure and you're sending unencrypted communication through their network, they're going to be honked off. They won't let us do it, but tough. Well, you know what I tell them? He said they won't let us do it. But what I tell them is, this is our industry. Just think of where IT was 20 years ago. This is where we are in traffic right now. And we're working our butts off to improve cybersecurity. I've got engine boards that secure themselves now, or we have engine boards and traffic controllers that encrypt their file systems. We have engine boards that say, hey, change the root password, because manufacturers aren't supposed to have root passwords anymore. All of these things, you know, we have HTTPS communication, all of these things. We're making strides, but Rome wasn't built in a day. But we need to keep inviting IT to the table, because otherwise we're not going to get, we're going to regret it later when they fight us on it, you know? That's the point, yeah. Shoot.
Yeah, so we're in Scarborough, and we have a closed fiber loop.
Yeah.
And it all goes through town hall through IT, and IT jumped on board with it and to give us access. We got VPN to get in and out of the fiber. So they're
High five.
about,
Yeah.
they know the security, but they know we need to get into it, and they've worked really hard with us too.
High five. That's awesome.
They're great to us.
Peter?
Talk about the biggest problem that I see in cybersecurity is not using encryption, not doing anything else. It's personal attacks. Somebody gets an email, they open up a link, and if you look at almost all the hacks that have happened throughout all the DOTs, it's a phishing attack.
Yeah.
And the phishing attack has got someone, and that is the way that they've penetrated into the network. The bigger question I have to all the different people here, and DOT as well, is what is your policy for providing education on phishing? Because the biggest penetration, I look at all the companies that have been taken down is...
Did you get my email, by the way?
Sorry?
Did you get my email?
To me, that's the most important area of concern.
Yes, 100%. And also the phishing, the CEO of Swarco McCain texted me. I was right outside his office, and he's texted me and said, hey, can you do me a favor? So I said, what do you need? He said, go to the store and get some Amazon cards. So I walked into his office and I said, hey, Jimmy, go get your own damn Amazon cards, you know. So agencies, yes.
We're talking about cybersecurity and talking about all the stuff that IT is doing, but how many people have a number 2 key?
Yes.
I mean, we are at risk at street level of people getting into our cabinets and attacking it.
Yes, you're 100% right. Last time I was in Tennessee, we did a kind of an ATC cabinet symposium, and we talked about smart locks. But even still, I mean, so I had the little smart lock in my hand, replacing the number 2 key. But I guarantee we could go to Lowe's right now and get a sledgehammer and a punch, and then tonight, after dark, we could go to any cabinet here in Rockland and go, bam, punch that lock right in. So the thing is with cybersecurity, and this isn't, we're kind of drifting a little bit, but this is a fun conversation. With cybersecurity, physical access is your first firewall. So as soon as they gain access to your server room or your cabinet rack, or in this case, our traffic signal control cabinets, they're in. That is technically considered a breach by all of the people who write cybersecurity policy and procedure. So they open that door when they're not supposed to be there. That's a cybersecurity breach if there's an Ethernet interface. So this gets really muddy really quick. So thinking about the cybersecurity considerations as we take into account. Let me go back one slide. Think about the different layers and different solutions of cybersecurity here, and how they would fit in with cybersecurity as we go through this here. So, nope, not you. This one, enterprise wide area networks. Okay, so this is typically a fiber optic network that the agency, I'm going to say agency here because it plays that term plays well with everyone in the room. This is typically a network that the agency deploys. It's a capital investment. It's a hard cost it's an infrastructure improvement. Fiber optic or unlicensed wireless. When my first, the first toe I dipped in the water here in intelligent transportation, I set up 5.8 gigahertz wireless to interconnect intersections. I didn't know what I was doing. I actually was connecting grid smarts at the time. I didn't even have Ethernet capable traffic controllers. So you deploy a unlicensed wireless network. Of course, you can secure it, encrypt it, or you string fiber through the entire agency. That's a massive, massive undertaking. City of Sevierville worked for 6 months on their own plans, and they're just stringing it up 2 corridors. But they're engineering the drops and working through the contracts and the plans and all that stuff. Lots of work involved there. So pros and cons. Number one, it's agency owned. So it's their fiber, it's their expense, and it's their investment. So they don't have to ask permission to get into the splice cans. They don't have to do anything because they own the fiber. Do anything to ask for permission. 2, it's scalable. Wireless, fiber, whatever you want, you can just add to it. Again, you don't have to call Verizon and say, hey, can I extend the fiber that you gave us, or anything along those lines. And then 3, of course, no limitations on bandwidth. You're limited to the size of the pipe that you created yourself. I got a 10 gig fiber running between here and Thomaston. Well, that's the bandwidth that I have. I'm not limited to what Verizon can offer here in Midcoast Maine, or AT&T or FirstNet, or anything like that. So that's really nice. You can do anything you want, solve for the future. Now, the cons, first thing, the money, investment costs. It costs a lot of money to string fiber, and it costs a lot of money then maintenance and repairs. It costs a lot of money to have the tools and the staff to maintain this communication. One drunk knocks over a communication cabinet, and which serves as a fiber hub, and now you have to pay somebody $30 a splice to resplice 144 strand fiber that was inside that cabinet. That costs money. And yes, in the event of a catastrophe, that's an insurance claim, but you also have to have those resources on standby. Then cybersecurity. So if you string your own network, if you're using your own network to interconnect all of your cabinets, and somebody punches into that cabinet and they plug in a device that is malicious in nature, you've got to then, like Steve was saying, you've got to stop them from getting back into your network. So you're maintaining firewall policies, you're maintaining all of the responsible cybersecurity. I think it's Virginia DOT. If somebody plugs an unauthorized device in the Ethernet switch in a VDOT cabinet, that cabinet will go will go into a lockout mode. It'll go completely calm dark. The system will cut it off because there's an unauthorized device. So it just assumes that a bad actor has penetrated that cabinet. So, but it's up to the agency to solve for that. Next up, cellular connectivity. Now let me be clear. The next slide is where I talk about the vendor package cellular. This is an agency cellular connectivity. So in the city of Eric, I have 30 intersections. I buy 30 cell modems, and then I buy 30 cradle points, and then I have them all VPN back to my network. So I manage that. I manage the policies. I have to set up all the infrastructure, or I have to pay my IT solution provider if the city of Eric is small, so I can't afford myself. So I have to farm this out. So I have to pay somebody, a managed service provider, to actually handle this for me. So the agency owns the devices. That's nice until lightning blows up the device, and then then I have to, or maybe if I have to do a bunch of firmware upgrades and everything. So I have to then put the resources into making and maintaining the actual communication equipment. Now this is less infrastructure investment for cellular modems than it would be to string fiber through the entire agency and terminate. So this is very, very scalable. Like Maine DOT, it makes perfect sense. You have 850 intersections all over this state. You're not going to run fiber from here to Fort Kent. That would be kind of cool, but no. So you just there's significantly less investment. And then network management and cybersecurity alignment. So if I'm the town of Scarborough, I already have a VPN infrastructure. I already have cradle points and fire trucks and police cars. And then you guys go, hey, let's can we have cradle points for the traffic cabinet? Oh, sure. We'll just add them on to our solution. So then, we have Cisco AnyConnect VPN or blah, blah, blah. So then the agency is able to create a comprehensive solution for all departments, and just give a slice to traffic. So the cons, number one, of course, recurring cellular fees. Man, my memory from 6 years ago, the last time I got a public sector cellular contract, it was $31 a month per line. And that's probably changed, and that was down in Tennessee. That was a state contract in Tennessee. So $31 a month times the number of intersections that I had was going to be my monthly bill for comms to traffic cabinets. So that's just something to consider. That's not necessarily a con because now everything is cellular connected, but the cost consideration there is be sure to budget for that. When you go and sell the solution and say, oh, it's going to cost us $50,000, say it's going to cost us $50,000 for the initial deployment and $5,000 a year forever. Bandwidth restrictions. Cellular's not as fast as fiber. Cellular in Portland, Maine is a lot faster than it is here in Rockland. It's just the nature of the beast with cellular networks. Now, ITS networks are eligible for FirstNet. If you guys know what FirstNet is, it's a priority network. So when the Lobster Festival comes here and this town swells up in population, the cell network becomes crap. But FirstNet doesn't go away because it's only for public safety. ITS networks are allowed. Equipment maintenance, like I said, cell modem firmware, all that fun stuff. And then, of course, cybersecurity. If you do this, if you want to execute this slide and you don't use a VPN, I'm going to call you names. I know a city in Texas, a big city. I'm not going to say their name. They have been running unencrypted HTTP comm using port forwarding, public IP addresses to every intersection. They have over 1,000 intersections. So when they told me this, I'm like, wait a minute, are you kidding me? So I pull up my cell phone and I type in the IP address that they gave me, and I could pull up max time. And if you don't use VPN, and sorry for the back, I'll just read this slide. VPN is a must, and I underlined must. You have to use VPN today. If not, the Russians are going to get you, or whoever. So let's talk about managed cellular. Mainlink is what I would consider a Glance. It is Glance, right? I always get that wrong. Glance is what I would consider a managed cellular solution. MyVision 1, I think it's what they call it now. That's a managed cellular solution. You put a box in the cabinet. It's got a cell modem in it as part of that package, and then that appliance subscribes to that managed system. But the convenience is you don't have to worry about anything as far as setup goes. They already figured it out for you. The vendors did. So it's an outsourced comm solution, and I really like that actually because it takes a lot of overhead off the agency. This is how, like, I don't know, the town of Thomaston hopefully is going to pull traffic counts out of the MyVision that was just deployed there. They don't have to worry about it. It's a small town, but like they can just log in and reap the benefits of having that kind of connectivity, and as can everybody who's part of the Mainlink system. So it's a value-added package, but it's already it's a product managed by a solution provider. I've already hit all these things. And procurement. Comms are included into a larger system purchase. So when you say, oh, well, we're going to spend $50,000. That's my favorite number today, obviously. We're going to spend $50,000 on this solution for our intersections, and it's going to give us comms too. Oh, bonus. Nice. And it's going to cost us $6,000 a year in maintenance for these 10 intersections. But comms are also included. Oh, bonus. So it's not a second line item. And now the cons. These aren't really cons, okay? These are the best cons I could think of. Managed by a third party. So if you have a control freak IT department, and they say, no, everything's got to go through us. Well, this solution goes through a third party. IT's got to loosen up and work with the vendor here. Bandwidth restrictions, same limitations. Rockland, Maine, Lobster Festival. There's a bunch of people here. The cell network crashes. Okay, well. It's going to happen. It could happen here as well. Now, FirstNet is an option, I think. Peter, correct me if I'm wrong here, but can you put FirstNet SIMs in your modems, or are they
And
dual SIM?
FirstNet, AT&T, when you actually look at it and the amount of FirstNet antennas on the different towers that they have, it's not actually everywhere.
Okay.
So
Sorry, it's been 10 years since I studied this, so yeah, yeah.
It is definitely an option. I think the first thing is just make sure that whatever you're picking is a prioritized solution.
Yeah.
What happens is AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, they'll prioritize traffic. So even Verizon, their FirstNet equivalent is you're an ITS agency or fire department, and you get your traffic prioritized before the general public does.
Yes.
The same way with AT&T and their standard services.
Yeah. Yes.
So like, to give you an idea on an AT&T cell pole, you might have one antenna that does FirstNet, but you've got like 5 different antennas or 6 different antennas doing a whole bunch of other communications, because you got 4G, you got 5G, you've got some of them had 3G, so you've got all these different types of antennas that your phone is connected to.
I'm looking right now to see what I have 5G, which is probably just 4G rebranded. But so excellent, thanks. It's good ad. So again, not really a con for bandwidth restrictions, because we can still get priority on these. And then subscription and maintenance contracts. This isn't again not a con, but just for awareness. This stuff, a lot of the products in the intelligent transportation industry now have recurring costs. So as you're scoping the system, just be mindful that, hey, we're gonna have to add more money to the operations budget, because every year it's going to cost us $600 a year or something like that. Not a negative. Everything costs money. It's actually how we get. It's how we get paid.
Maine DOT purchased the units was with a 10-year connectivity, service, and warranty.
Cool.
So whatever happens to the devices, they get knocked down, lightning strikes, whatever, they fully replaceable.
Exactly. And
cell technology changes.
And that adds to my that really builds on the pros here, because this is all managed. Like if they didn't buy the warranty and there's a knockdown here in the city of Rockland, it's like, oh, Rockland, you got to buy another FMU. Or DOT's got to buy another FMU to supply it to Rockland. But given the fact that this is all worked out, makes it a heck of a lot easier for the end user agency. How am I doing so far, Steve? Good? Oh, I don't care about time. All right, I got 2 more. Leased lines. This is now just putting an internet drop, a hardwired internet drop in a cabinet. This is my least favorite way of doing this, because you guys ever seen a ruggedized cable modem? No, because Spectrum and Xfinity and whoever else, they just give you a cable modem. So you got to put a cable modem in a cabinet. A cable modem that's designed to sit on the bookcase for the Xbox gamers of the world is now sitting in a traffic cabinet. It's the wrong device for the cabinet, in my opinion. Now there are some ruggedized versions, but really, in reality, we just put a cable modem in a cabinet. Cable modems need to be rebooted from time to time. Blah blah blah. So, pros and cons. Agency managed. All right, here's your internet drop. Now we get to put in our own firewall, do all this other stuff, because we want to do all the nerdy cybersecurity stuff ourselves. It's kind of scalable, because what I see a lot is a single internet connection on an old closed loop fiber on a closed loop fiber network, or fixed wireless point to multi-point. So we have one interconnect connection bridgehead for a whole slew of intersections. Cool. And it's not cellular dependent. Now, unfortunately, it is dependent on the infrastructure. So, it's a hardwired network, but you do have, it works just like your home internet connection. Cons, of course, recurring costs. Just like we pay for our own cable modems and phone lines. Scalability. Solutions typically limited to a small area, like Luke's presentation. All right, well, we're going to set up a small closed loop network in a remote area of the state of Maine. We'll put in one cable drop there. That's not going to give us everything everywhere. There could be an intersection a mile away from that closed loop network that will cost $1 million to get to interconnect with, because there's a hill in the way or something. And then, of course, agency managed. Not really a con, but just for awareness, you got to make sure that that you have a management plan and the people to manage that connection. All right, last one. This one's a joke. Twisted pair interconnect. You notice I didn't even do pros and cons on this one. I ripped this directly out of my old UT presentation. There's a lot of places that still use twisted pair interconnect. That network and they fight to maintain it. They upgrade the old FSK modems over to VDSL Ethernet switches. They spend a lot of money keeping this system alive. And in the back, and in their heart of hearts, they go, damn, I wish I could use this as a pull string and just put in fiber. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. Washington, D.C., they have a lot of twisted pair interconnect, and when it goes down, they immediately just pull fiber, unless the conduit's collapsed, and then they go into construction mode. So, it's still used in many, many places across the country. Boston still uses it. Boston's cabinet spec, Tim, correct me if I'm wrong, but Boston's cabinet spec still has the 66 punch down block for old phone twisted pair interconnect for their serial comm system.
Yeah, it's even better than that, actually. So they are migrating to fiber. They're putting a lot of money into putting fiber throughout the city of Boston, but they're still using their CTS system that was developed back in the mid-90s, and their base system communicates at a baud rate of 1,312 bits.
Yeah.
Megabits.
Yeah, dog. And they back all that over Ethernet too. So super fun. So again, the agency's responsible for that, and there's still a investment cost for modernization. But twisted pair interconnect, legacy comms, it's a pull string. All right. Huh? Yes, Tim.
I just want to say one thing about Boston. They, you know,
We don't talk about Boston here. No, kidding.
I just want to put a little caveat on what I said. So the presentation's awesome as always, right?
Thanks.
But I just want to point out the fact that
I did it sober too.
to do what they want to do at that low baud rate, but they know they need stuff in the future, so that's why they're doing the transition. And again, they're not throwing the baby out with the bathwater, right? They still have the UTSC system that's been functional for 30 years now. So, you know, they're doing a phased-in program. I didn't want to make it sound like I was bashing Boston.
Ah.
They put a lot of money into the UTS system.
Yeah.
You know that.
They have. It's a cool system. Yeah. Okay. Any questions? Did we turn the lights off in here because everybody's like just drowsy this morning? No, I'm kidding. I was wondering that when I walked in. Questions? Comments? Cool. All right.